By the end of this video, you will have created a wall cabinet which looks like this. Let's go ahead and dive into it. The video is intended for those of you that are using SketchUp for Schools and that are also using the free SketchUp version. The first thing that I would encourage you to do is to learn what are called the quick keys, and I've made a Google slideshow for you here showing the most common quick keys that I use. I typically will just push a key on my keyboard to activate the circle tool, the clear tool, the tape measure, etc. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time in this video explaining those. The first thing that I encourage every single newbie SketchUp person to do is to learn how to set up a scene. For the amateur SketchUp person, a typical mistake is that they will be zoomed way out in space or they maybe are flipped over, and a scene could save your butt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave my view as it was. And I'm going to go over to the scene button, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 from the bottom. And if you hover on top, it'll actually pop up and say scenes. And I'm going to click on it. Now you'll notice here it says there are no scenes in this model. I'm going to go ahead and click the plus button and I'm going to create a scene. Now let's say, for example, that I roll my wheel way out on my mouse and I have no idea where in the world I am. I'm somewhere lost in space near Mars. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to that scene button again. So I'll click here and I'll click on the scenes, and you're going to see here in a second as it snaps me back to the exact same location that I was before. So go ahead and do that. You will thank yourself later on. My new students always struggle with this. For some reason, they think that they can type in measurements down here and those are going to work. A common mistake is that you cannot actually physically click there to type anything. What you need to do is you need to activate the tool and then start typing the measurements, and they will miraculously appear down here in the bottom right corner. Let's go ahead and draw this rectangle on the back. To do that, I'm going to tap the R key to activate the rectangle tool, or I can find it right about midway down here on the left-hand side. So I'll tap the R key or select the rectangle tool. I'm going to click and I'm going to start dragging. Now, the back is actually 1'6" by 2 feet. So I'm going to type in 1 foot. That foot marker is right next to the enter key on your keyboard. 6 shift inches. And if you notice, the dimensions start up here on the bottom side, comma, 2 feet. And as soon as I hit enter, it's actually going to automatically snap my rectangle down to the correct size. Bingo. Now, if your rectangle is facing this way or if it's facing this way, it really does not matter. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the selection tool over here or hit the space bar. And I want to turn this into something called a group. To do that, I'm going to click on it 3 times with my mouse, 1, 2, 3. Or what I can do is actually draw a box around it until it turns blue. Both of those work just fine. After I do that, you're going to right click on it and you are going to make it into a group. Now, the nice thing with a group is it locks that shape so that everything you draw on top of it, in a sense, isn't stuck to it. We'll talk about components later, but grouping versus components, if you can learn those things, it'll make your life so much easier later on. So the next thing that we're going to do, believe it or not, is we are actually going to draw another rectangle on top of the one that we just did. The best way I can describe this is you have a set of blueprints, they're drawn to scale, and you are building a model on top of the piece of paper. This thing that we just drew and grouped is our piece of paper. So let's go ahead and do that. And I activated my rectangle tool, and I'm just going to simply drag it over the top. Now, a way to test that you did that is if you try to activate your push-pull tool with the P button, and you can pull it up and down, but we'll know really, really quick if we actually did it right. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and pull that thing up. And if you look at my finished thickness here, it is, where is it? 7.5 inches. Yeah. So to do that, I'm going to activate the push-pull tool. And I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. And if you notice in the bottom right corner there, I'm currently at 4 feet tall. Now I'm down to 3. I'm going to let go of my mouse and I'm going to type in 7.5 and I'm going to hit enter. And it should automatically snap it down to that exact size. The next tool that you're going to use is something called the offset tool. The offset tool is located underneath the push pull button on the left side. And this is a tool for some reason I always forget the key for. But you're looking for this, which is two circles with an arrow sort of pointing upwards on it. And if you notice when I hover over that, how it says an F next to it, the F key is actually the offset key. What we're going to do is we're actually going to draw an offset, which is 1.25 inches thick. And that's going to signify this outside edge of our cabinet. I'm going to click and I'm going to start dragging. And 1.25 inches is 1.25 inches, but I'm going to show you how to type it in a fractional form too. So I'm going to type in a 1, I'm going to hit a space, and 1/4, and I'm going to hit enter. And what you'll notice is that it actually drew a rectangle exactly the right size on the inside of my particular shape. After we've drawn a rectangle on the inside, what we're going to do next is we're going to activate the line tool by tapping the L key, or it's also the pencil on the left hand side. And I'm going to go ahead and connect these corners. Now, every time I do that, I am instinctively tapping the L key. Sometimes what will happen is this thing gets stuck to the other side, and if you just tap the L key again, it will work for you. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to take this, and I'm actually going to hit the P button, and I'm going to push this side down until, if you see right there how it's kind of grayed out, if I let go at that point, it's going to disappear. Then I'm going to zoom over to the other side. To zoom over the other side, I'm holding the rolly wheel down. You can also activate the hand tool if you want to move side to side with the H key. But I'm going to go ahead and push that side down until it disappears. And then actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and push this middle out until it disappears as well. So what you'll notice is that I've actually just drawn one side of our cabinet and another side of our cabinet. I'm going to go ahead and hit the space bar, and I have an extra line here for Sunburr. If I click on it and then I hit the delete key on my keyboard, I can remove that way. The other alternative is sometimes you can actually use the eraser tool over here, and if you're careful, you can erase the extra line. What we're going to do next is we're actually going to take this particular side right here and we're going to turn it into something called a component. To do that, it's very similar to making a group. I'm going to go over to my pointer tool, and I'm going to triple click on it with my index finger, 1, 2, 3, until the entirety of it turns blue. After you've done that, right click on it, go to make component, and let's call this long side, LONGSIDE. We'll hit OK. And the nice thing with a component is if you make something a component, when you edit that component, it actually edits everything else. This is really important if you are doing a design with, say, 100 pieces on it. And let's say you draw all those 100 pieces, or you copy paste those 100 pieces, and the first one that you copied from is wrong, you have to go through and edit every single one of those if you do not make it a component. Case in point, this is a component, this is a component. So let's say, for example, I want to suddenly increase the size of this particular component throughout my model. Let's go ahead and do that, and I'll show you. If you take a look, you can see on all of the models how that side piece is actually moving. So if I edit one, it edits the other. That's the beauty of a component versus a group. The next thing on our list of to-dos is actually to get rid of this extra side right here. And to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and push it until it just disappears like that, which is awesome. After we push it off, what we're going to do next is we're actually going to activate the bucket tool, or paint bucket, and we are going to try to color this side this same color. So if I do that, I would click on the paint bucket and I start clicking on it, and you'll see that it filled in entirely. If it doesn't, please go back to the section where I was showing you how to group and component. I think roll the clock back a little bit and redo that. Make sure it's a group. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to copy paste this side over to here. If you look at our cabinet, this side is identical to this side, so we only really need to draw it once. To do that, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to activate your pointer tool by hitting the space bar or clicking on your shape. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to tap the M key for move, and I'm going to move it from a corner. Common frustration for students is that if you do not move from a corner, it's really, really hard to move a shape over. So if I try to move this over on a corner, you can see how I can easily snap it or back and forth. So once again, to move, I'm going to tap the M key. And then if you notice down here, there's a bunch of things that are written down. If you follow these directions, it gives you clues as to what SketchUp can do. If you are familiar with the Microsoft Word Suite, Control C and Control V, you can copy paste the exact same way on SketchUp. I personally like to use the M Control Quick key. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap the M key once, and then I'm going to tap the Control key once, and I'm going to click in that bottom corner. I'm going to drag a new one out. Now, if I tap the up arrow, it'll force me in the upward direction, left arrow, right arrow, but you can also use the arrows to sort of get you close. Sometimes I will have to move it more than once, which is fine. But once again, you are moving from a corner. So we have the left side drawn, we have the right side drawn. The next thing that we're going to do is we are actually going to draw this oranges colored side, and then we're going to copy paste that oranges colored side up to here. Now our thickness is exactly the same. It's going to be 1.25 inches. And to draw that side, we're actually going to use the tape measure tool. So we're going to tap the T button, and we're going to sort of hover about here on this edge right here. I'm going to click once, and I'm going to drag up, and I'm going to let go of my mouse entirely. I'm going to type in 1.25, and I'm going to hit enter. And what you're going to see is that it's automatically going to snap the line at 1.25 inches from this bottom edge. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to activate my line tool, and I'm going to start drawing a rectangle. To do that, we'll tap the L key or find the pencil tool on the left hand side, and I'm just going to go ahead and draw a shape after I get my view right here. So L, we go from corner to corner, X is intersection, go all the way over here, click. Oop, I don't think I did that wrong. We're going to Control Z, we're going to undo that. Yeah, we want to be on the intersection there, here, and then here. Now, you sort of have to keep in your brain where you've drawn, where you haven't. If you don't complete the rectangle, let's say, for example, I forgot to draw the line right here, it will not allow you to push it up. So we're going to go ahead and push pull, and we're going to pull this upwards. Now, if you notice here, I'm going to drag it over, and that dotted line that appears, if I hold it and I'm holding down my index finger on my mouse, it'll automatically snap it to exactly that same height. We're going to let go there. The next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to turn this into a component. To do that, we are going to activate our pointer tool. We are going to triple click on it, 1, 2, 3, right click, and then hit make component. And then let's call this top slash bottom. Okay. And what we can do now is we actually can take this piece of wood and we can copy paste it up to the top here. I'm going to go ahead and rotate my view. And once again, I'm going to move from a corner. Use my hand tool here. So I'm going to tap the M key, Control key, and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag another one out. My guess is that it's not going to be as easy for you dragging and dropping things. I've had, gosh, what is it now? 6 years of SketchUp practice. So if you have to do it once and hit Control Z, do it twice, hit Control Z, that's totally fine. Life is still good, I promise. Let me go ahead and remove the top and we'll start talking about shelving. So I'm going to tap the M key and I'm going to move that up so that you can see the shelves. And I'll just put it somewhere in the air there for us right now. Now, if you'll notice that our shelf is exactly the same size as our bottom piece and our top piece, with one exception. It's actually a bit narrower of a dimension. So what we're going to do is we're going to save ourselves a little bit of work. We're actually going to copy paste these and we're going to dump them in place. But before we do that, I need to put some dimensions on there. So I'm going to go over the dimensioning tool, click on the 3 here, and let's see how far apart. Yep, 5 inches between this one and 8.5 between this one and 6 inches between this one. This is really up to you if you want to put them at 4, 4, and whatever. It really doesn't matter. But for the sake of this example, let's stick to 5, 8.5, and 6. Let's go ahead and zoom down to our model again. I'm going to click on whatever shape I want to copy paste. So I'm going to tap the M key, and I'm going to tap the Control key, and I'm going to click and drag this down to roughly where I think I want it to go. So after we have successfully copied and pasted another shelf, if you will, what we need to tell SketchUp is that, hey, if I edit this one, please don't edit this one. And to do that, we're actually going to have to make it unique. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to my selection tool. I'm going to select the shelf that I just moved if it's not already selected. Right click on it. And I'm going to go up to Make Unique. Now, what this is going to do is this is actually going to make a copy of it that if you edit it, it's not going to edit everything else. If I remember correctly, looking at our model here is that these are exactly 1 inch thick and these are 1 3/4 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to push this down to 1 inch thick. To do that, I'm going to tap the T button to activate my tape measure tool. I'm going to click and I'm going to start dragging this direction. And I'm going to type 1 and I'm going to hit enter. And you're going to see here, this is how much I need to actually push off of the model. What we're going to do next is actually, we're going to take this side and we're actually going to push it in. To do that, I need to activate my pointer tool with the space bar, click over here. I'm going to double click on my model and I'm going to open up that component. You'll notice how this is all grayed out and that this is still the original color. That means that I can actually push it in. So I'm going to go ahead and tap the P key and I'm going to push it in and I'm going to click and I'm going to hold my mouse down and I'm going to drag right onto that line and I'm going to let go. Now what you'll notice is that I was able to reduce it down to that exact 1 inch dimension. I am happy with it. So the next thing I need to do is actually deselect it. To do that, I'm going to click over here in the space bar tool, pointer tool, click out in the green. And looking at it, we should be good to go. We need 1, 2 of these. So once again, I'm going to tap the M key, Control key, after I select it, M, Control, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to drag this over. I'm going to go ahead and stop on this video. Let's call this video 1.0 of wall cabinet design. And the reason I'm going to stop it is looking at my software right now, we're going to be in about the 20-minute range. And I think that's long enough. So I'll do a video 1 and then I'll do a video 2. The last thing that we're going to do in this particular video is we're going to add some dimensions into it. And so that we all start in exactly the same spot on video number 2. Video number 2 is going to be how to actually draw in your what's called your face frame, your cabinet, and also import these hinges into your model. Let's go ahead and add some dimensions to our model. To do that, we're going to go to the dimensioning tool, which is 1, 2, 3 up from the bottom. And I'm going to find the number 3 here. So I'm going to click once, click twice, and 3 times. You always have to add dimensions from a corner. And you always have to click 3 times. So the first corner that you click on is where you're going to pull from. Second corner that you click on is where you're going to pull to. Third corner that, or it's not third place that you click, I should say, is where you want the dimension to stop. So 1, 2, I want it to stop there. We'll click 3 times. And we should probably put a dimension on here. 1, 2, and 3 times. Now, the beautiful thing about SketchUp is if you do a really nice job on your SketchUp design, when you're next door in the shop, or if you're building this at home or whatever, all of the math is already done for you. If you live in North America where you're working with fractions and inches, oh, that is a huge time saver. Maybe someday we'll convert to metric, but don't get your hopes up. Hey, you, guess what? This video took me 144 minutes to make because I'm really slow at editing and everything else. I hope you found it somewhat enjoyable. Stay tuned for part two, and maybe give me a like, give me a comment if this somewhat helped you. If you're a Superior Essential student, I'll be around to check your work shortly.